Hello everyone and welcome to Nick Barlow Radiology, and in this latest video we're going to be looking at Haglund's deformity and enthesopathy. So if we look at this first imaging example, if we just zoom in on this area, this is what we're interested in here. So this region at the posterior calcaneum, if we just put some arrows on it, the first thing we're going to focus on is this area here. So along this area, if we just draw a line, we've got something called the plantar fascia or plantar aponeurosis. This is basically a band of soft tissue that acts like a bit of a buffer, and the insertion is here in this area. And what happens is over time you get repetitive strains, and that can cause a buildup of excess bone at the site of the insertion, known as enthesopathy. Enthesopathy can occur secondary to a number of things. So tendinopathy, where you get repetitive strain at a tendon insertion, bursitis, so inflammation of the bursa, and osteitis. But this is a common finding on X-ray, often seen incidentally, but patients can present with heel pain and sometimes get referred. Really, in practice, an X-ray isn't really justified for plantar calcaneal spur, but we still see him. We still see him come through the door. So this is a plantar calcaneal spur. The next thing we're going to focus on is this area here. And this is a similar principle. So this is a site of the Achilles tendon insertion. And you see the Achilles running up here. We've got this sort of very slightly, if we kind of zoom in, you can see the difference in contrast between this area of tissue here and this slightly denser area of tissue here with a definite interface there. So this is the Achilles tendon coming in here. And we've got repetitive strain again happening at that tendon insertion, which is causing this new bone formation, this enthesopathy here. We do have a bit of sclerosis callus there as well at the cortical region. If you see this compared to the rest of the cortex, we've got some increased sclerosis there. And the third thing we're going to focus on is this area here. So normally what would happen is you would get a nice kind of smooth contour to the posterior calcaneum coming round like this. What happens is kind of similar principle to the calcaneal spur and the enthesopathy at the Achilles tendon insertion. You get repetitive strain here at the bursa, and the bursa becomes inflamed. That leads to wear on this section of bone here, and what happens is you start to get sclerosis and you start to get new bone formation or a small spur forming up here, so it's quite triangular in shape. This is called Haglund's deformity. Okay, so this is secondary to bursitis, as I've said. It isn't particularly that prominent on this case. I've got another case though that'll show it better. This is another example here. So if we zoom in here, we've got a large plantar calcaneal spur coming in here, and we've got marked enthesopathy at the Achilles tendon insertion. It can be quite marked. So these patients will present with heel pain, chronic heel pain. Sometimes you'll get soft tissue swelling at the Achilles associated with the enthesopathy as well. And in this final example, this is a nice example of the Haglund's deformity. So if we zoom in on this, and let's just move this actually, just a minute. Let's move that up there and zoom in. This is what we're talking about. So we've got this triangular shape here at the posterior calcaneum. So that's your Haglund's deformity. We've still got marked enthesopathy here at the Achilles, and we do have that soft tissue swelling associated with it as well, and a small plantar calcaneal spur. We do have some soft tissue calcification there. Sometimes you can get calcification of the plantar fascia. You can get that with plantar fasciitis. Another word for Haglund's deformity is pump, because often it's associated with sort of hard back shoes. constantly rubbing, putting pressure on this area, and it leads to bursitis, swelling of the bursa, and that then leads to Haglund's deformity. So often some of these you pick up incidentally, but often patients will present with kind of heel pain. You might get specific indications asking to identify whether there's Haglund's deformity. Just keep an eye out for it, guys, because it can be very subtle. So it's one of those things that's often missed, especially when it's kind of more general indications and you're looking for things like osteoarthritis. So you see we've got some early osteoarthritic changes here at the ankle mortise. We've got some osteophyte formation anteriorly, and it's easy to miss Haglund's deformity. So just keep an eye out for it in future and be sure to mention it. So for your CPD, guys, I'm just going to summarise. So Haglund's deformity, it's a bony growth essentially at the posterior superior aspect of the calcaneum, and I've got a small diagram here to show that this is a bursa here. This is Achilles tendon coming in. This is a bursa surrounding it, and what happens is you get repetitive pressure on there, and over time that leads to bursitis and then eventually new bone formation and sclerosis. Plantar calcaneal spurs are due to repetitive stress or inflammation of the plantar fascia insertion causing new bone formation. And again, we've got a small diagram down here just to show this is a plantar fascia and this is a spur here forming at the bottom. And it's the same principle there at the Achilles tendon insertion as well. And the enthesopathy there can be quite marked with some adjacent soft tissue swelling. Further reading, there's just a couple of articles. That first article is about enthesopathy in general, and then there's another article specifically on Haglund's deformity and the radiological signs of it. Goes into a lot more detail. But yeah, I hope that's been useful, guys. It's just a quick one, this, but it's just Haglund's deformity is something that often gets missed. It can be really subtle, like we saw in that first example. So just keep a lookout for the sclerosis and a slight triangular contour to that posterior superior aspect of the calcaneum. If you've liked it, please drop us a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share with your colleagues. I'm going to be putting some more videos on shortly. And also, guys, we're going to be doing some special career videos as well. So do look out for those. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Bye for now.